All right, so you want to be a glass blowing artist, huh? Well, you've come to the right place because we're going to break down everything you need to know to totally crush that upcoming interview.
That's right. We've got our trusty career guide to point us in the right direction, an interview guide packed with killer tips, and of course, we got to talk about RoleCatcher.
RoleCatcher. It's basically like having a superpower for job hunting, right?
It is. It's this awesome AI platform that helps you tailor your resume and practice your interview answers for any job.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But first, let's hit the hot seat with a classic interview question. Ready? Tell us about your experience with different glass blowing techniques. I mean, I'm guessing you've got the basics down pat, but
Don't just rattle off a list here. This is your chance to shine.
yeah.
Think about the techniques that really make you stand out.
Right, like maybe you've experimented with marine or cane work, stuff that shows you're not just blowing basic shapes.
Exactly. You want to prove you're pushing the boundaries of the craft.
And that's where RoleCatcher swoops in to save the day. It can actually analyze the job description and say, hey, they're probably looking for someone with experience in these specific techniques.
Boom. And then you can tailor your answer to highlight those skills. It's all about hitting those right notes.
Okay, that's seriously cool. I wish I had RoleCatcher back when I was interviewing. All right, next question. How do you approach creating a new glass piece? This one's always fascinating to me. It's like getting a glimpse inside an artist's brain.
It's where you show off that unique artistic voice. Do you start with sketches, or do you just dive right in and let the glass guide you?
Yeah, like are you a plan every detail kind of artist or more of a happy accidents type?
And talking about those happy accidents can actually be a good thing.
Oh, really? How so?
It shows you can adapt, you can problem solve on the fly, and those are golden skills in any creative field.
I bet RoleCatcher can even help you refine how you talk about those accidents.
Ah.
Make sure you sound confident and not like you're just making it up as you go along.
Oh, for sure. RoleCatcher can analyze your word choice, your tone, everything to make sure you're coming across as the total pro you are.
Okay, on to a question that's a little less about artistry and more about practicality. How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others when working with glass? Now, obviously, we all know about wearing gloves and goggles, but
But think beyond the obvious. What about ventilation? Protocols for handling hot glass. Those are the details that show you're serious about safety.
right. Because a messy studio might be one thing, but a dangerous studio is a whole other story. And speaking of things that are important,
The career guide actually emphasizes having a clean, organized workspace. It's not just about safety, it's about professionalism showing you respect your craft.
makes total sense. Okay, question 4. This one's all about resilience. Tell us about a challenging glass piece you created and how you overcame obstacles. I always love a good challenge story.
Me too. But this isn't just about bragging, it's about showing you can problem solve, you can think on your feet.
Did a piece crack in the kiln? Did you have to completely scrap a design and start over? Tell that story, but focus on how you tackled the problem.
Exactly. That's what they're really interested in. Your process, your ingenuity.
And it's funny? The career guide actually talks about how those challenges are what make your work more valuable. Like the more you struggle, the more your art shines through.
It's true. Overcoming those hurdles, that's what separates the pros from the hobbyists.
Okay, next question. This one's all about staying ahead of the curve. How do you stay up to date with new glass blowing techniques and trends? I mean, it feels like this field is constantly evolving.
It is. So mention specific workshops you've taken, artists you follow, publications you read, anything that shows you're actively learning and growing.
And I'm guessing RoleCatcher can actually scan those resources and suggest the most relevant ones to mention based on the specific job you're after, right?
You know it. It's like having a personal research assistant for your career.
That is so cool. All right, question 6, and it's the one we all dread. Describe a time when you had to work under pressure to meet a deadline. Ugh, deadlines. The enemy of every creative person.
But in the professional world, they're unavoidable. So use this question to your advantage. Show you can handle the heat, you can stay calm and focus when the pressure's on.
Literally. And maybe even mention how you've learned to anticipate those potential meltdowns, both figuratively and literally.
Exactly, because planning ahead, understanding the properties of glass, those are key to avoiding disaster.
Which, by the way, is something the career guide emphasizes, like, big time. Okay, last question for this part of our deep dive, and it's a big one. Discuss your experience working with clients to create custom pieces. Now, this is where things can get tricky, right? balancing your artistic vision with what the client wants.
It's definitely a balancing act, and they're looking for someone who can handle it with grace. Have you ever had to gently steer a client away from a design that just wouldn't work in glass? Or maybe you had to translate a vague idea into something truly spectacular?
Because ultimately, it's about making the client happy, right?
Uh.
Even if it means compromising a little bit on your own artistic vision.
And sometimes those compromises lead to amazing breakthroughs you never would have expected. It's all part of the creative process.
So true. All right, that's a wrap for part 1. We've tackled some tough interview questions, sprinkled in some career wisdom, and even seen how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon in the job hunt.
But don't go anywhere yet. We've got more questions, more insights, and more RoleCatcher magic coming up in part 2.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. I hope you all didn't melt under pressure from those interview questions.
Oh, I'm feeling fired up and ready for more.
Speaking of which, how do you handle those tricky client situations where they want you to, like, bend the laws of physics with glass? You know what I mean?
Yeah, those go above and beyond request.
Exactly. They always throw me off. What's the best way to approach those?
Well, remember, it's not just about working late or pulling all-nighters, though that might happen sometimes.
Right. It's more about showing you understand that balance between, like, keeping your artistic integrity and also making the client happy.
Yeah, it's like you want to create something amazing, but you also need to make sure it's actually, doable.
Exactly. So you want to highlight your problem-solving skills. Did you have to learn a whole new technique? Maybe collaborate with another artist to make it happen? Those are the kind of stories that impress interviewers.
Oh, and what about managing those client expectations throughout the process? That feels like a whole other challenge.
It is. And the career guide actually talks about educating your clients, about the properties of glass and what's realistically possible.
Yeah, it's like you got to gently bring them back down to earth sometimes.
Right. It's about building trust and transparency. And sometimes that education process can even spark new creative ideas.
So true. Okay, shifting gears for a sec, I want to talk about something that's super important to me. Finding the right studio environment. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's huge. It's not just about the job. It's about finding a place where you can thrive creatively.
Totally. The vibe, the people, even the music they play while you're working, it all matters.
And the career guide actually talks about researching different studios, understanding their culture, their clientele.
It's like finding a team that you mesh with. Like spending hours in a hot, intense studio with people you can't stand.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. All right, let's jump back into those interview questions. You ready for another round?
Hit me.
All right. Tell me about a time you failed. What did you learn from the experience?
The dreaded failure question. I always feel like I have to make something up for this one.
You don't. It's not about pretending you're perfect. It's about showing self-awareness. We all make mistakes, especially in glassblowing.
Oh, tell me about it. I've had my fair share of kiln explosions and, pieces cracking at the worst possible moment. It's part of the process.
Exactly. And what they want to see is what you did after the failure. Did you analyze what went wrong, adjust your technique, maybe even ask for feedback from a mentor?
Yeah, like turning that failure into a learning opportunity, which, by the way, is something that RoleCatcher can help you articulate, right?
It can. It can help you frame your failure story in a way that highlights your resilience and your problem-solving skills. Show that you're always learning and growing.
Okay, next up, the question that makes me sweat every time. What are your salary expectations? Talking about money is so awkward.
I get it. But remember, it's a two-way street. You deserve to be paid fairly for your skills. And they want to make sure your expectations align with what they can offer.
Right. So how do you strike that balance? Like, how do you know what to ask for without sounding greedy or selling yourself short?
Do your research. The career guide actually provides salary ranges for different experience levels. And there are tons of online resources where you can find more specific data.
So it's about finding that sweet spot. Knowing your worth, but also being realistic about the market. And I'm guessing RoleCatcher can help with this too.
Absolutely. It can analyze similar job postings and even help you craft responses that are confident but not demanding, strike the right tone.
Okay, that takes a lot of pressure off. All right, next question. This one always feels kind of obvious, but I guess there's more to it than meets the eye. Why are you interested in this particular position?
This is your chance to show them you've done your homework. Don't just repeat what's on their website, though.
Yeah.
Connect your skills and your passions to their specific style.
Oh, I get it. Like if they're known for their super intricate nature-inspired sculptures and you happen to be obsessed with botanical glass blowing, well, that's a match made in heaven.
Exactly. It shows them you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right job.
Okay, that makes sense. So last question for this round, and it's the one that always throws me off guard. Do you have any questions for us? Like, what are they even looking for here?
They want to see that you're engaged, curious, not just passively waiting for them to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it's your chance to gather information that will help you decide if this is the right fit. Ask about their creative process, their client interactions, anything that gives you a better sense of what it's like to work there.
Oh, and maybe sneak in a question about what kind of music they blast in the studio.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, the right playlist can make or break a good melt.
Maybe save that one for later, but yeah,
Hmm.
you get the idea. Be curious, be genuine, and don't be afraid to ask questions that show you're taking this opportunity seriously.
We're back for the grand finale, ready to put all those interview skills to the test.
That's right. It's time to really showcase what makes you unique, what makes you stand out in a sea of talented glass artists.
Okay, so let's talk about that question that always trips me up. Tell me about your greatest strengths as a glass artist. Like, where do you even begin with that one?
Well, think about the skills that truly set you apart. Are you a master of color? A whiz with complex forms? Maybe you have a knack for collaborating on, large-scale installations. Whatever it is, own it.
And don't just tell them, show them.
Exactly. Give specific examples. Talk about that time you spent hours meticulously crafting, tiny, intricate marine for a mosaic, or how your, obsession with clean lines led you to develop a new cold working technique.
Yeah, stories are everything. They make your answers come alive,
They do, and they help the interviewer connect with you on a deeper level. They remember you.
Speaking of remembering, does RoleCatcher offer any help with, identifying your strengths? Sometimes I feel like I don't even know what my strengths are.
It does. It can actually analyze your past experiences and kind of point out those recurring themes, those strengths that maybe you don't even realize you have.
Wow. It's like having a career counselor built into the platform. Okay, now for the question that makes me want to melt into a puddle of anxiety. What is your greatest weakness as a glass artist? I always feel like I'm setting myself up for failure with this one.
It's not a trap, I promise. They're not trying to trick you. It's really about showing self-awareness and a willingness to grow.
I guess that makes sense. But it's still tough to talk about your weaknesses,
I hear you. But think of it this way. Everyone has areas where they can improve. Maybe you struggle with large-scale installations, or maybe your, attention to detail sometimes slows you down.
Oh my gosh, that's me.
Yeah.
I get so caught up in the details that sometimes I forget to, actually finish the piece.
See? We all have our things, but what you want to convey in your answer is that you're aware of those weaknesses and you're actively working on them.
Right, like taking workshops or getting feedback from a mentor.
Exactly. And if RoleCatcher can analyze job descriptions, I bet it can also analyze those weaknesses and suggest, specific skills to focus on developing.
Oh, that would be amazing. It's like having a personalized roadmap for career growth. Okay, so as we wrap up this epic deep dive, what are some final words of wisdom you have for aspiring glass artists out there?
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from those nitty-gritty interview questions to the bigger picture of, finding the right studio environment and building a fulfilling career.
We've talked about passion, resilience, the importance of constant learning, and of course how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon throughout the whole process.
It's a journey, that's for sure. But with the right preparation, a sprinkle of confidence, and a dash of that RoleCatcher magic, you'll be well on your way to creating a career that's as beautiful and enduring as, a perfectly crafted glass sculpture.
So true. And to all you aspiring glass artists out there, never stop learning, never stop experimenting, and never stop blowing us away with your incredible talent.
Cheers to that.
That's it for our deep dive into the world of glassblowing. We hope you found it helpful, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit fiery. Until next time, keep those furnaces burning bright.